Hello and welcome to another video by Financial Earning. On today's video, I want to break down Mullen Automotive's latest PR in terms of the FTZ application. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So some of you may have seen Mullen put out a PR on April 1st, 2024 in terms of an FTZ application. It states that on Monday, March 25th, the company filed the FTZ application and they expect final determination within 30 to 90 days. Mullen did estimate that based off of their deferred working capital on domestic sales, they could result in a deferred capital outlay of about $10 million for the remaining of the fiscal year, which would mean that they'd be able to save that $10 million as cash on hand for additional operating expenses. There are some other ways that they can save on utilizing the FTZ process. We'll talk about those on future slides. So some of you may still be asking yourselves, what exactly is the FTZ? So I went ahead and did a little bit more research. I attached the URL to the bottom of this slide. I just want to kind of walk through a little bit more of details of what the FTZ is, and then I'll go over some of the benefits and how I personally think Mullen Automotive can also be utilizing these in some of their sales for future vehicles. So again, what is an FTZ? FTZs are specially designated areas located near U.S. ports of entry that for import-export purposes are considered outside the U.S. Customs territory. Therefore, a company operating a designated FTZ can import raw materials and other goods and products into the U.S. without immediately paying duties, taxes, and fees on them. Duties, taxes, and fees on goods warehoused in an FTZ are only due when the goods enter the U.S. market for sale and are not paid if the goods are re-exported outside the U.S. So that last little sentence there was actually really important. What that lets you know is not only are you able to defer the taxes for any of the materials until you actually make the point of sale on the back end and they leave the FTZ location, but also if, for instance, the vehicles need to come in to the U.S. into the FTZ, if we're going to do any type of work to the vehicles and then export them outside of the U.S., you're actually able to avoid having to pay any of those fees and taxes because they are considered a re-exported good. Going into some of the other benefits I wanted to talk about. Reduced merchandise processing fee. You may be asking, what exactly is that? So I went ahead and just added that to this slide as well. So that's a user fee that the U.S. Customs and Border Protection charges. They give the percentage there at 0.03464%. So again, all of these goods, and there's informal and informal merchandise processing fee. So it varies depending on the actual cost of the product. So again, that's another thing that Mullen Automotive is able to get a reduction of cost while it's in the FTZ. Streamline logistics. This is really important. So let's say you have another vendor that happens to have their main manufacturing facility outside of the US, but they have an FTZ in the US, and they actually have set up some inventory controls in the US in their FTZ. You're able to actually order that material from their facility in the US in their FTZ and transfer it over to Mullen Automotive's FTZ without having to pay any import fees or taxes or tariffs at all at that point, and still convert that material into your final product and then pay those taxes and fees at the very back end at the point of sale. Another really important thing to bring up, as I already mentioned about the no duties on waste, scrap, or defective parts, again, even if it's not to destroy a vehicle for a crash test, if you find any flaws in the products and you cannot use them, you don't have to pay the taxes and fees on them, utilizing the FTZ. So you're able to do an incoming inspection of the lot to make sure that everything is acceptable. A couple other things, more precise inventory and cost control. Also, there's no time limit on storage. So if you like to queue up your inventory of parts, you're not paying that tax up front, you're not paying those fees up front, you're able to have all of that get deferred until the vehicles or until the material that's being housed in the FTZ is ready for that customer sale. On the right hand side, I wanted to give a quick example. So when not having to pay duties up front means having more cash on hand. We talked about that. Compared to competitors outside of an FTZ, there's no limit on how long you can hold those goods. As I mentioned, you're able to kind of queue up that work in progress, and you're able to actually build your inventory and have it ready to go. So if you want to be able to put a large order in, you don't have to have that upfront fee. And there's more flexibility when it comes to managing that inventory. Again, faster, better, and cheaper inventory until that thing's ready to be sold. Any goods that can be transported as a direct delivery. You can move directly from that port of arrival. So say it comes in from LA or wherever that port of arrival is, you're able to go directly to the FTZ. You can reduce those custom delays. So typically if you don't have an FTZ, that material gets held up at the port customs location. Well, this allows that material to continue on into the FTZ. Also, you're able to utilize weekly estimated entry, so you're able to kind of plan that out when it comes to the FTZ and customs. You can get it pre-approved, kind of like you get pre-approved to board aircraft and things of that nature, TSA check, those types of things. Again, a faster inventory turnover means you get a faster speed to market. So again, because you're not being held up in customs, you're able to turn your product a lot faster. So if you are looking to be able to scale, this is a great method to be able to kind of scale your product in, especially if you're importing materials. All right, last slide. I want to talk a little bit about an example of how to utilize the FTZ when it comes to supply chain. So suppose the FTZ automotive manufacturer purchases tires from a tire supplier that also has their FTZ. Let's say they move their tires into the US under their FTZ. I mentioned this on the first slide. You're able to get them moved from FTZ to FTZ without having to pay those duties for tires until they enter the US market for sale. So this is a great way to, again, be able to cut down on lead time. If you have suppliers that are in the States but are operating under an FTZ, you're able to get the material transported, directly FTZ to FTZ a lot quicker than overseas. So again, there could be a reduction in freight costs and different things of that nature. So this was just an example of tires. So think about the overall product, whether you're talking airbags, you're talking tires, you're talking frames, you're talking chips, anything of that nature. If you're able to utilize these supply chains that have FTZs within the US, you're able to get that product a lot quicker, and the cost to get it transferred over and shipped could be significantly less. So just to show you a couple of examples of why I believe that this is going to help out Mullen Automotive, the first thing I want to point out is going to be their actual supply chain. So in one of Mullen's PRs, they did mention that they have Tier 1 and Tier 2 OEM suppliers in South Korea, Germany, Romania, China, and Canada. So again, all of those suppliers would be able to ship their product to Mullen Automotive's FTZ, and then any type of taxes, tariffs, things of that nature that have to do with the import and export of the material, that will get deferred until all the material gets integrated into the vehicles and those vehicles are sold to the end customer. So another great thing that Mullen Automotive has at their facility there at Tunica is that lot. So they're able to actually queue up their inventory while they prepare for larger orders to be able to get those vehicles to market. They're still protected under the FTZ, so you're able to start accruing an inventory and not have to take that hit of taxes and fees up front. A couple examples of their product that I believe would also be exempt from any of those import fees and export fees would be, for instance, Mullen mentioned in 2025 they will be getting into the European market for their Mullen 5RS. So they're able to import those vehicles to the Tunica location, do any slight inspections, do any other types of adjustments that they want to on that product, and then queue up that inventory to be prepared for any types of sales there in the European market. Another item is going to be their campus van. So we know Mullen Automotive already has a deal with a dealership in the Dominican Republic, which will also add some additional areas to the Caribbean. Again, these vehicles can be shipped from China, which is where these frames are coming from. They could be sent to Tunica, and then from Tunica out to the Dominican Republic. And again, they could avoid those import and export fees and tariffs. Last product I want to mention is the Mullen Go. So we know that the Mullen Go was first introduced in Ireland. On top of Ireland, it's also set to go to the UK, Spain, and France. So again, various countries within the European market are looking for these Mullen Go's, and now in the instance that Mullen would like to queue up inventory here in the States, as well as change any slight features, trims, models, anything of that nature, they're able to do it under an FTZ and not have to pay those import and export fees. All right, and that wraps up the video. I really hope that this video was informative for you. If you did like the video, please consider liking, subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts of this specific video. Let me know any ideas for content in the future. And with that said, hope you all have a great day.